All right, we're picking up from our last video. We're gonna, in this video, I'm gonna show how to control the visibility of these chairs, as well as look at nested parameters and how we can control those. We're gonna make a couple of those relating to the chair. But first, I want to kind of explain one thing that I kind of missed in the first video, and that's grouping with the array. If you'll notice, when you mouse over one of these chairs, you see that little, I guess the blue cube kind of dotted line around that chair. That basically is showing that that's in a group. Grouping, if I had multiple objects or just one object, you can create a group. If you look up here under the create, there's create groups. Grouping is pretty interesting, actually. You can see in this little or in the little graphic, there's not a video on this one, but in the little graphic, you can select multiple items, walls, chairs, and components like furniture or different objects, and you can group them together and then reuse them multiple times throughout the project. If you've ever used SketchUp, it's similar to making components, to where you edit something within the group and it changes throughout the entire group. So with an array, each thing that gets copied around the array essentially creates a group, and then that's what gets copied. So if I click on this chair and open it up and edit that chair, it's going to edit it throughout all of the chairs within that array. So for example, if I don't know, let's go ahead and we'll create a little extrusion under this chair here. I don't know, it doesn't matter. I'm just kind of showing an example here. So to show you how you edit the group, you can double click on this thing to enter the group, or you can select it and then under group right here, hit edit group. So everything kind of turns yellow. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but everything kind of turns yellow and highlights what's in the group. You can add things to the group over here. This little dialog box pops up with the edit group. You can add and remove different objects. So for instance, let's just add that little extrusion I just made, and we'll finish it. And you notice, because everything gets arrayed, excuse me, the entire array is within that group. If I add it to that one, it gets added all the way around. So it's the same thing. I say I don't like that. I delete it out of this one. I finish, and it'll take it out of all those. So that doesn't mean that if I was to, for instance, place that same chair, like, this is not part of that group. So, you know, I can move this around and make instance changes to this chair, and it's not going to affect anything here. But if I were to, you know, make an instance change, for example, to this chair, then yeah, it would affect the rest of the chairs. All right, so what we want to do is we want to create a parameter that controls the visibility of these chairs, because we want different types. We want, you know, 4-foot table, 6-foot table, 4-foot table with chairs, 6-foot table with chairs. So the first step would be to create a parameter that just controls the visibility of chairs, and that's a different type of parameter. Okay, so I apologize. I had to break the video there because I had actually already done it, and I had to basically undo what I did to show you what I was doing. So anyway, let's go to our list of parameters here for the family types. We're going to add a parameter, and this is going to be, let's see, just chair visibility. It's going to be a type parameter. The type of the parameter is going to be different. It's going to be a yes/no parameter. So if I bring down this list, you can see all the different types of parameters. On this one, we're using an integer parameter. That's the one that controls the number of chairs. You you can see we have a lot of them. Length, that's actually the one that's changing the radius of the table, is a length type parameter. We've used material parameters before. There's a bunch of options in here. We're going to use a yes/no parameter and group the parameter under other. That's okay. So we'll create that. So all right, we have a parameter here, chair visibility, and it is checked. So essentially with a yes/no type parameter, it's either that's a no and that's a yes. Checked is yes, unchecked is no. So nothing's attached to this right now. So what we need to do is we're going to click OK. And we need to attach the visibility of this chair to that parameter. So when it's checked, it's visible. When it's unchecked, it's not visible. Now, the kind of interesting part about this is that if we control that visibility in here with that visibility setting, we won't really be able to notice a difference, right? If it's unchecked in a project, it would be not visible, but here in the family editor, it's still going to be visible because it makes it a little difficult to edit the family if some of your stuff isn't visible. So in order to really test this, we're going to need to open up a project. We can go ahead and do that now. Click on the little Revit symbol here, new project, and we're just going to change it to architectural template just because that's what we typically use and it just would make more sense for us. All right, so now I have the project open. Let's go ahead and hit window tile again, and you'll see this is our project. It by default called it project 2. This is family 2, so you can kind of tell when you're switching between your family and your project. I'm going to close out my floor plan here. So the 3D view is my family editor, and the 2D view here is my project. So to switch between the two, you just click in the window in the open space. I'm going to go ahead and load in this project into my, or load in the family into the project, just so you can kind of see it in there. We're going to make some changes, and then we're going to continue to overwrite to test it within the project. Sometimes you have to do this, especially with visibility parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this button, load into project, and it went ahead and loaded it into my project. Place it right here. So when we can click on this guy, you'll see the name of the family. I haven't named the family, it's just family 2. You name it when you save it. So if I saved it as parametric table, that's what you would see the family name. And then the type is the 4-foot table. You see my 2 types here, 4-foot table and 6-foot table. And then if I hit edit type, you'll see the parameters that I've created. Again, the integer for the number of chairs, you can't control that because it's controlled by the table size. Okay, cool. So let's switch back over to our family, and we're going to edit the visibility of this chair, make it controlled by that parameter. So to do that, we're going to double-click to start working within the group here. We're going to select on this chair, and then you'll notice over in the Properties view there is visible, and it is checked. That is something that's built into every family. Well, I'd take that back. Every component has a visibility attached to it. Every geometry that you do in Revit will have visibility attached to it, so you can control different visibilities within different views. We kind of went over that when we went over basic families, like for instance the door. In 2D it looks like the door is open, but in 3D, in actuality, the geometry shows the door closed. Anyway, that's all playing with visibility settings. So with this one, we have the visibility, and it's checked. And then we have this little button here that we can associate this with the family parameter. So we're going to go ahead and click that. There's our parameter, chair visibility, and we will click OK. So you notice it grays it out, and it is checked there, and we get the little equal sign saying that it's associated with the family parameter. So we're going to go ahead and hit Finish. And since I did it to that chair, it's going to do it to the rest of the chairs. So we're going to create that parameter that's going to be controlled through these family types. So we click Family Types. Rule number 1 when doing these videos is don't do it in Studio. I keep people keep interrupting me, so that, sorry, some guy just came up and started talking to me. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, we're creating different types to control this chair visibility. So we got a 4-foot table, a 6-foot table. For this 4-foot table, I'm going to create another one that says there's going to be a 4-foot table with chairs. And then the other 4-foot table, I'm just going to put, you know, without chairs. All right, cool. So the one with chairs, it's going to be checked saying yes, they are visible. The one without chairs is going to be checked to say they are not visible. Our 6-foot table, let's go ahead and put with chairs. And then new would be a 6-foot table without chairs. All right, cool. So 6-foot table with chairs, 4-foot table without chairs, 6-foot table with chairs, 4-foot table without chairs. So without chairs, it doesn't need to be checked. Let's just double check that. Okay, so when we hit apply, notice this is 4-foot table without chairs. It is unchecked. I hit apply. Our chairs are still there, so it's a little difficult to test that. How we do it is we're going to load it back into our project and overwrite the existing parameters that are in there. So basically updating it within the project, and then we're going to test it in the project. So we click OK. We're going to load into project. We get this little pop-up that says you're trying to load family 2, which already exists in the project. What do you want to do? I always put overwrite the existing version and its parameter values versus overwrite the existing version. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. This is basically saying that if you had edited that family within that project and changed all its parameter values, it's going to turn it back to its defaults. With something like this, it doesn't really matter, so I always click the bottom one. If it's something that you've kind of messed with before, maybe you want to click just overwrite the existing version. So we're going to click this one. Click on the chairs. Okay, so you'll see we have our 4-foot table with chairs, 4-foot table without chairs. Awesome. So the ones that are without chairs, our 6-foot table without chairs, you will not see the chairs. And then with chairs, you see the chairs. All right, cool. So that's your visibility parameter right there. All right, so we know that that's working. So we're going to close out the project, and we will open back up our floor plan here. So now we're just back in the family editor, and we want to start messing with some of these nested parameters within this chair. We're basically just going to say that the parameters that control the material of that chair are within that chair family. We want to kind of pull those out and be able to edit them within this family. So that's just a nested parameter. All nested parameters basically have to be instance parameters of that nested object rather than type parameters. I know that I said parameters a lot, but it'll make sense once we start kind of doing it. So basically, I'm going to place a chair outside of this group. I don't want to mess with this group too much, so I'm going to place another chair just kind of over here, and we're going to play with that one to kind of see how we want to control it. So we're going to go back over to Create, Component. There's our chair. I'm just going to place it right there. I may rotate it around so I can kind of see the front of it. So there's our chair. We're going to click on the chair. We'll notice these are the instance parameters of the chair here on the Properties panel. If we go to Edit Type, there's our materials. Those are the two that we want to control within this family. You'll notice that when we mouse over the associate with parameter, it's not giving us the option to do that because they're type parameters. So basically, we need to go into that family, move those parameters from type to instance parameters, reload it back into this family, and then we'll be able to associate it with a parameter. So we're going to click OK. While we are have the chair selected, we're going to go up in the ribbon, and you'll notice Edit Family. We're going to go ahead and hit this. So yeah, somebody in class said it's sort of like Inception, where it's like a dream within a dream. Yeah, it's a family within a family, and then we just put that into a project before. Now we're kind of going back to where we're going into the family that was within the family. So now we're in the chair family editor, and we can kind of control the parameters that are within this family and the geometry if we wanted to. We could add more parameters that maybe controls the height of this chair. There's a lot of things that we can do. You'll notice if we click on these extrusions, you'll see materials and finishes. It's associated with that family parameter. It's a type parameter. Same thing with this sweep that is calling the tubing. So we're just going to go into the parameter list here. And there are two materials. Those are the only parameters that are associated with this chair, I guess, that the user created. So I'm going to select this seat back material. I'm going to hit modify, and then it's a very simple process of just, it's a type right now. We're just going to change it to an instance parameter. Hit OK. Same thing with the other one, instance. Now you may ask, well, how can you tell whether it's a type or an instance? If we pull this over, you will see that on these it says default now, like in the parentheses it says default. If I was to go back and modify this back to a type, that default goes away. So when you see that default, that's what that means. It's that's an instance parameter. So what it's talking about default there is that because it's an instance parameter, it's very easy to change within the project. So when you assign it a value, it's just a default value. That means it's you're expecting the user to change that value. So that's why it just says default. It kind of is that identifier that it's an instance parameter. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then we're going to load this back into our other family. So we're going to hit load into project. And again, we get the same question here. I'm going to go ahead and overwrite its version and its parameter values. All right, now we can close this out because I don't expect we're going to be playing with that chair anymore. Do you want to save chairs to, or do you want to save changes to this chair? We're going to hit no. We don't want to save that. So basically, by not saving it, the changes that I made to this chair are just in this family 2, right? If I was to load that chair family into another project, it would remain the same as if we had never played with it. So the changes we made, yes, they're nested in here, but they're only for this project. So you can play with these all you want within this family, but it's only going to be in this family. You're not going to really mess anything up unless you overwrite something like where that chair is sitting. Okay, cool. So if we click on this component, we'll see its instance parameters. There we have materials and finishes. And there's the things that now, look, we can now associate it with family. The thing to note, though, that this is an instance parameter. So if I associate this chair right here with a parameter, it's only going to affect that particular chair. So if we had two chairs next to each other, so we'll just kind of copy it over. Say I changed this one to, whatever, it doesn't matter. A different material. Right, it's an instance parameter, so it's only affecting that chair, not a type. But good thing with our array is that with the array, all those chairs are in a group. So what changes with one changes with all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these chairs, or within the group, and then go over to the properties, and I'm going to go ahead and associate these with the parameter. I'll make the parameter as I go. This will be, let's say, I don't know, cushion or something. Let's click OK. Tubing. That's a pretty good name for it. We'll just put tubing. And click OK. And finish. So now if we, turn on some colors, if we go into our parameters, you will see materials and finishes, tubing, cushion. If we change one of these, to something weird, hit apply, it'll do it for all 4 of them because they're all in that group. So there we go. We have we created a parametric family with an array, and one of the things that I also kind of wanted you guys to pick up on is the fact that you can use one parameter, like for instance that radius parameter. We have 2 different things working off of one parameter. So one parameter can get used over and over again to control multiple things within your family. That's just really good practice because it makes your model your family just a little lighter weight. When you start getting really in depth to making a lot of parameters and that sort of thing, it's easy for it just to get a little overwhelming, a little too much. So it's good to really think about what's the cleanest way of making this, just to make it just a little bit easier to handle. And one way of doing that is to have one parameter that controls multiple things. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to create another video that goes over essentially these same concepts, but in a linear array and a line-based family rather than sort of a radial array and like a furniture-based family. So thanks.